It's as close to time travel as we're gonna get. This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
All right, so this is where we take as little time as possible to hammer through a week in music history. It's always less than 10 minutes. A lot of the time, it's never more than 7. We're looking at the week of May 19th until 23rd. I hope all is well in your world. Foo Fighters gave us album number 2 in 1997.
There's songs about heroes that I had when I was a kid.
Somewhat related to Dave Grohl in 2023, when someone's famous guitar breaks all auction expectations. Breaks being the word.
Although it's no longer playable, the guitar has been put back together.
And a man responsible for shaping the sound of music in a massive way would have been having a birthday this week as well.
I just happen to like the sound of Moog better than Moog.
This Week in Music History. A week in less than 10 minutes.
Do you want to hear the demo? In 1978 this week, Dire Straits gave the world their first major label single, Sultans of Swing. They recorded this thing on a £120 budget back then, and it sounded like this.
You get a shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park, but meantime, south of the river you stop and you hold.
1979 this week, Eric Clapton holds a party at his house in Surrey, celebrating his recent marriage to Patti Boyd. Paul McCartney, Ringo, Patti Boyd's ex-husband George Harrison all ended up jamming together with Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker and Mick Jagger. My God, it's the jam session from heaven. Here's Patti Boyd.
I don't want to totally blame Eric, but I think that, his behaviour was wrong, morally wrong, to entice me to leave George, because I was married to George, and Eric really shouldn't have done that. But also, I was wrong as well to allow myself to be flattered to that extent. So, we were both wrong morally on that moral issue.
This week in 1979, Supertramp went to number 1 on the US album chart with the great Breakfast in America album, their only US number 1. Here's Roger Hodgson.
A lot of these songs were my songs before they became Supertramp songs. I mean, people know them as Supertramp songs, but actually I wrote Dreamer, Breakfast in America, Give a Little Bit, It's Raining Again even, before Supertramp actually even started. So these were my babies from a very early age.
And in 1997 this week, the Foo Fighters gave us their second album, The Colour and the Shape. What was unusual about this album title, being an American band, they spelt colour the British way. COLOUR.
Song about a movie. There's a song about the relationship between the journalist and the musician. There's songs about heroes that I had when I was a kid. And I think it's sort of everyone sort of tagged it as this heavy emotional trip. Man.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.
A fella that flew the flag for the Doors as long as he could. His anniversary this week, Ray Manzarek, keyboard player with the Doors. He died this week in 2013, but by God, he loved being out on the road and talking about the making of those great records.
And here's the rain part. Thunder. After we finished the song, he said, "Oh man, I've got super rain and thunder. It's Riders on the Storm. It's raining on the desert, right?" "Yeah, exactly, Bruce. Raining on the desert." He said, "We got to put in some rain and thunder." So sure enough, I mean, the whole thing starts with
2023, a smashed Kurt Cobain guitar sells at the Hard Rock in New York. It was signed by Nirvana. It was estimated to land between 60 and 80 grand. It sold for 600 grand.
The instrument, a black Fender Stratocaster, was initially estimated to go under the hammer for around $60,000 to $80,000. But it shattered expectations when it was auctioned off on Saturday in the Hard Rock Cafe in New York City. Although it's no longer playable, the guitar has been put back together and features signatures by all 3 original band members of the band.
1979, Elton John started a tour in Russia when he played the first of 8 gigs, making him the first Western star ever to do so. Imagine the hype.
Such a good time! What a night.
Do you think that was one of the best gigs of the whole tour?
Oh, undoubtedly.
Not just
saying that. No. It was one of the best gigs of the whole tour. One of the most memorable gigs of my whole life.
This week in music history. A week in less than 10 minutes.
1983, David Bowie was number 1 on the singles chart with the song Let's Dance. It featured the very cool Stevie Ray Vaughan. This was Bowie's first single to reach number 1 on both sides of the Atlantic. And it's not necessarily a dance record, says David.
Not really, no. It has an intention of being danceable, but I think in terms of lyric, I've tried to keep as simple as anything that I've ever written before. I'd like to consider that I'm trying to write in a more obvious and positive manner than I've written in a long time.
Mad old stuff. 1958, Jerry Lee Lewis arrives at London's Heathrow Airport to begin his first British tour, along with his new bride, his 14-year-old third cousin, Myra. Although advised not to mention it, Lewis answered all questions about his private life at the press, and the public shock over Lewis's marriage marks the start of a controversial tour. In fact, there was no tour at all because it was cancelled after just 3 of 37 scheduled performances. Back in the States, the press grabbed them there too.
Well, the papers reported that you were greeted with silence over there and with catcalls from the audience. Is that right?
Well, I can't agree with them there, sir. No, the audience was very nice and very good.
Mm-hmm. Were you there, Mrs. Lewis?
I was there, but I wasn't at the shows.
Oh, you weren't at the shows? Mm-hmm. Oh, did you notice anything like that sort of reception?
No, it was a very good reception, I thought.
Why did you leave?
Well, I don't answer those questions, sir. My manager might knock my head off or something.
This week in 2004, Morrissey turned 45 years of age and he decided to play Manchester after not playing there for over a decade. 18,000 tickets sold out in an hour and a half. Morrissey seemed actually happy.
Thank you, friends. Which, of course, at the end of the day, makes me 10 parts Crumlin and 10 parts Old Trafford.
2006, the King of Sweden presented the surviving members of Led Zeppelin with the Polar Music Prize in Stockholm, recognising them as great pioneers of rock music.
Ladies and gentlemen, please greet our honorees, the recipients of the Polar Music Prize 2006, Maestro Valery Gergiev and Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones and Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin.
Finally, it would have been Robert Moog's birthday this week, inventor of the synthesizer. He built his first electronic instrument, a theremin, when he was just 14. In fact, you can hear a theremin all over Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. Then he made the Mini Moog, or Moog, the first compact, easy-to-use synthesizer in 1970. How do you say it again, Robert?
In Germany, it's a fairly common name, and there it's pronounced Moog. In Great Britain, English-speaking countries, people see the double O and they say Moog. I just happen to like the sound of Moog better than Moog. Part of my family pronounces it one way, and part pronounces it the other way. So my wife at the time and I decided to go for the Moog pronunciation.
And that is a look at this week in music history. That is May 19th until 23rd. Thank you for checking out the podcast. We will do same once again next week, always less than 10 minutes.
This week in music history, a week in less than 10 minutes.